What if the line between life and death wasn't a sharp divide, but a living, breathing space where the two worlds intertwine? Imagine a place where the spirit realm is always present, just a step beyond the veil of our own reality, waiting to interact with us. In many African spiritual traditions, this boundary is more than a simple threshold. It's a sacred line, a passage between worlds that has guided centuries of beliefs, rituals, and practices. Understanding this line, known as the Kalunga, is crucial to unlocking the mysteries of life, death, and the forces that govern both. The sacred role of the Kalunga line connects the living to the dead and the spirits in between. Yet, the mysteries don't stop there. This boundary is not just an abstract concept. It's a place where powerful forces are activated, where objects are imbued with spirits, and where priests and healers like the Nganga act as the intermediaries. Through the symbols and rituals of Nkisi, spirit-activated objects, we come to understand how the spirit world influences our physical lives. These practices, which have traveled through time, have deeply influenced modern traditions like Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo, bringing with them secrets that have been passed down from generations. What are these secrets, and how do they continue to shape the way we interact with the unseen? Today, we'll unravel the mysteries of Kalunga, Nkisi, and the Nganga, and explore how they have shaped some of the most powerful spiritual practices across the globe. In African spiritual cosmology, the Kalunga line represents more than just a boundary. It is the sacred threshold that separates the human world from the spirit realm. This line is not a simple divide. It is a sacred, fluid space, deeply revered and respected, where the forces of life and death coexist. Kalunga is both the name of the boundary itself and the deity who governs it, often depicted as a powerful force that controls the cycle of existence. As the keeper of this boundary, Kalunga holds dominion over life, death, and the transition between the two. The deity is not just an abstract force, but an active presence, ensuring that the souls of the deceased pass into the afterlife while guiding the living through their own journeys. Kalunga's role as a deity is deeply symbolic in the African understanding of existence. In many African traditions, death is not seen as an end, but rather a continuation of life in another form. Kalunga stands as a mediator between these states, maintaining the delicate balance between the living and the dead. This connection is not only physical but spiritual, representing a constant cycle of death and rebirth, where the spirits of ancestors are believed to watch over and guide their descendants. Kalunga is often envisioned as a vast, mysterious realm, a place where all souls pass through in their journey toward transformation, and where the living can call upon the guidance of their ancestors for wisdom and protection. The Kalunga line's significance is deeply embedded in the African view of the afterlife. Rather than a permanent separation, death is considered a passage, a sacred crossing over the Kalunga line into the spirit world. This cyclical journey through death and rebirth symbolizes not just an end, but a transformation, where the spirit moves from one realm to the next. It is a continuous loop that is never fully broken, as life and death are intimately linked in a rhythm that flows between the physical and spiritual worlds. This connection offers both closure and continuity, ensuring that the wisdom of those who have passed remains intertwined with the lives of the living, guiding them through their own mortal journeys. The Kalunga line is the keeper of this sacred cycle, the ever-present reminder of the fluid, interconnected nature of existence itself. Nkisi are sacred objects imbued with spiritual power, acting as conduits between the physical and spiritual realms. In many African traditions, these objects are not merely tools or symbols, but active agents of spiritual energy that can manifest the will of the divine or ancestors. The creation and use of Nkisi is a profound act of spiritual invocation, one that requires careful attention, intention, and the guidance of a skilled practitioner, often a Nganga, a priest healer. These objects can take many forms: statues, figurines, jars, or even simple everyday items, but each is carefully prepared and activated to channel spiritual forces. When a person is in need of healing, guidance, or protection, an Nkisi can be called upon, its spirit awakened through rituals, chants, and offerings. The power of Nkisi lies not just in the object itself, but in the energy that is infused into it through ritual practice. These objects are considered alive, their spiritual essence ever present and capable of responding to human needs. The Nganga, acting as the intermediary, activates these Nkisi with sacred incantations, prayers, and rituals that honor the spirits within. These rituals are deeply tied to the African understanding of life and death, as Nkisi are often used to bridge the gap between the living and the deceased. Ancestors, spirits, and deities can be called upon to inhabit the objects, lending their power to protect, heal, or guide those who seek their assistance. The relationship between the living and these spirit-activated objects is one of profound respect and reverence, as the Nkisi becomes a gateway to the divine forces that influence every aspect of existence. Nkisi also play a significant role in the rituals surrounding death and the afterlife. As the Kalunga line marks the boundary between life and death, Nkisi serve as spiritual tools that help to navigate this boundary. For example, when a person dies, an Nkisi might be used to guide the soul across the Kalunga line, ensuring a smooth passage into the spirit world. Similarly, Nkisi are employed in rituals to communicate with the ancestors, asking for their guidance or protection. The act of invoking these objects ties the living directly to the spirit world, allowing them to interact with the unseen forces that shape their destiny. Through these practices, the line between life and death becomes not just a barrier, but a sacred space where the two worlds converge, constantly interacting and influencing one another. The influence of Nkisi extends far beyond African spiritual practices. As African traditions were carried across the Atlantic, they found new homes in the Americas, where they blended with local customs and beliefs, giving birth to powerful spiritual practices such as Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo. These practices inherited many of the concepts surrounding Nkisi, adapting them to new cultural contexts, but maintaining the core belief that objects can be imbued with spiritual power. In Hoodoo, for example, the use of mojo bags, small bundles filled with herbs, stones, and other materials, is a direct descendant of the Nkisi tradition. In Vodou, spirit-activated objects known as servitors serve similar functions, acting as vessels for the LWA, the spirits of the religion. Similarly, in Palo, the use of Nkisi-inspired objects like Nkisi vessels allows practitioners to connect with the spirits of ancestors and deities. Across all these traditions, the concept of spirit-activated objects continues to play a central role in the way people interact with the spiritual world, proving that the influence of Nkisi is far-reaching and enduring. The Nganga, a priest healer and spiritual guide, occupies a central role in the African spiritual traditions that revolve around Nkisi and the Kalunga line. As the intermediary between the living and the spirit world, the Nganga is entrusted with the sacred task of navigating the boundary between life and death. The Nganga possesses profound knowledge of the spiritual realms, having undergone extensive training in ritual practices, herbal healing, and the deep mysteries of the ancestral world. In this capacity, The Nganga is more than just a healer or priest. They are the guardians of spiritual knowledge, the keepers of ancient traditions that connect the living to the divine. They are responsible for activating Nkisi, guiding souls across the Kalunga line and ensuring that the balance between the two worlds is maintained. The Nganga's role is not limited to merely performing rituals or healing the sick. They are also seen as protectors of the community, often called upon during times of crisis or spiritual upheaval. Their knowledge of the spiritual world allows them to discern when the living need guidance or when spirits require attention. Whether it's a request for protection, healing, or the resolution of spiritual disturbances, the Nganga is the one who communicates with the spirits and ensures that the balance of life and death remains intact. In this sense, the Nganga is deeply intertwined with the very essence of existence, serving as a bridge that connects the physical and spiritual worlds in a way that preserves harmony. In their work, the Nganga often uses Nkisi as tools to channel spiritual power. These objects, when activated by the Nganga through prayer, ritual, and the invocation of spirits, become powerful sources of energy that can affect change in the physical world. The Nganga's expertise in using these objects is what makes them such a revered figure within African spiritual traditions. Their role in healing is not just about curing physical ailments. It is about restoring balance to the individual's soul, ensuring that the spirit is in harmony with the divine forces of the universe. This process is especially important when dealing with matters of life and death, where the Nganga serves as a guide to ensure the safe passage of souls across the Kalunga line, allowing for a smooth transition from the human realm to the spirit world. The influence of the Nganga extends far beyond African communities. As African spiritual traditions made their way to the Americas, the role of the Nganga found a new expression in practices such as Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo. In these traditions, the spiritual leader or priest often assumes a similar role as the Nganga, serving as an intermediary between the human and spirit worlds. In Vodou, for example, the Hongan or Mambo fulfills a role similar to that of the Nganga, guiding their community through rituals that call upon the spirits and ensure their well-being. Similarly, in Palo, the priest or Tata uses their knowledge of the spirit world to perform rituals that help the community maintain spiritual balance, using objects and rituals inherited from African traditions to communicate with ancestors and deities. The core belief that a spiritual guide can access and influence the world of spirits continues to thrive in these practices, a testament to the enduring legacy of the influence of African spiritual traditions, particularly the concepts of Nkisi, the Kalunga line, and the Nganga, extends far beyond the African continent, shaping spiritual practices and beliefs across the globe. In the Americas, the arrival of enslaved Africans led to the blending of African religious systems with indigenous and Catholic elements, giving birth to powerful traditions like Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo. These practices, while uniquely shaped by the cultural experiences of African descendants in the New World, still carry the essence of their African roots, especially the reverence for spirit-activated objects and the profound connection between life and death. Hoodoo, for example, draws heavily from African traditions of spiritual power, invoking the use of charms, amulets, and spirit objects to protect, heal, and bring about change. These spiritual tools are direct descendants of Nkisi, infused with spiritual power through ritual and intention. In Hoodoo, objects like mojo bags, which are small pouches filled with herbs, stones, and other personal items, serve a similar purpose to the Nkisi. These bags act as vessels for spiritual forces, carrying the intentions of their creator and becoming a source of power for the practitioner. Just as Nkisi are activated by the Nganga in African traditions, these objects in Hoodoo are imbued with spiritual energy by their maker, serving as a bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds. They are used to manifest desires, offer protection, or communicate with ancestors, echoing the same spiritual principles that govern the use of Nkisi in African cosmology. Vodou, a religion that developed in Haiti and other parts of the Caribbean, shares many similarities with African spiritual traditions, particularly in its reverence for spirits and its use of physical objects to channel spiritual energy. The concept of the Kalunga line, for example, plays a significant role in Vodou, where the El spirits govern the various aspects of life and death. Just as the Kalunga line represents the boundary between the physical world and the realm of spirits in African traditions, Vodou practitioners recognize a similar boundary between the living and the dead, often referred to as the veil. In Vodou, the priest or priestess, called Hungan or Mambo, serves a role akin to that of the Nganga, guiding the spirits and using sacred rituals to communicate with ancestors and deities. Spirit-activated objects in Vodou, such as servitors or vaves, symbols drawn to invoke spirits, function much like Nkisi, acting as a conduit through which the LWA can be called upon to assist the living. These objects, infused with spiritual power, help maintain the balance between the worlds, allowing practitioners to heal, protect, and gain insight from the spirit realm. Similarly, Palo, a religion originating from the Congo region of Africa and brought to the Americas through the transatlantic slave trade, places great emphasis on spirit-activated objects and rituals to connect with the spirit world. In Palo, practitioners use objects called Nkisi vessels, wooden containers filled with sacred items, charms, and spirits, to communicate with ancestors and spirits. These Nkisi vessels serve a similar purpose to the Nkisi in African traditions, as they are carefully prepared and activated to hold spiritual power. Palo practitioners believe that these vessels contain the spirits of the dead, who offer guidance and protection in exchange for offerings and rituals. The role of the Tata, priest, or Yaya, priestess, in Palo is analogous to that of the Nganga, as they guide their community and maintain the balance between the physical and spiritual worlds through the use of these objects. Like their African predecessors, these spiritual leaders in Palo use rituals and prayers to ensure that the spirits remain active and engaged with the living, allowing for a continued flow of wisdom, protection, and spiritual energy. In all three of these traditions, Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo, the influence of the Kalunga line, Nkisi, and the Nganga is evident in the way that spirit-activated objects are used to bridge the gap between life and death. These traditions carry forward the deep reverence for the spirit world and the belief that death is not an end, but a transition, a part of a cyclical journey that connects the living to the ancestors. The practices in Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo demonstrate the enduring power of African spiritual traditions, showing how the ancient wisdom of Nkisi, Kalunga, and the Nganga continues to shape the ways in which people interact with the unseen forces that govern life, death, and everything in between. These spiritual practices are not just relics of the past. They are living traditions that continue to evolve, adapting to new cultural contexts while maintaining their core beliefs. The enduring influence of African spirituality on Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo is a testament to the resilience of these practices, which have endured centuries of displacement, colonization, and cultural transformation. In these traditions, the Kalunga line remains a powerful symbol of the interconnectedness of life and death, and the Nkisi and Nganga continue to serve as essential tools for navigating the spiritual world. The sacred relationship between the physical and spiritual realms, as embodied by these objects and rituals, ensures that the teachings of the past continue to guide and protect future generations. The sacred boundary between life and death, as embodied in the concepts of the Kalunga line, Nkisi, and the role of the Nganga, continues to resonate with profound spiritual significance in both African and diasporic traditions. These practices have not only survived, but have also thrived, adapting and evolving across cultures, particularly through the powerful traditions of Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo. The influence of these traditions on modern spiritual practices cannot be overstated, as they continue to offer profound insights into the mysteries of life, death, and the unseen forces that govern existence. At the heart of these traditions lies the understanding that death is not an end but a transition, a journey that every soul must undertake. The Kalunga line, in both African and diasporic spiritual contexts, represents the delicate balance between the living and the dead, a space where the two realms intersect and interact. This boundary is sacred, not simply because it separates two worlds, but because it is a place where transformation occurs. It is here, at the threshold between life and death, that the energies of the living are transferred, where ancestors are honored, and where spiritual beings guide the living through their journeys. The role of the Nganga, or the spiritual priest-healer, cannot be understated in this process. The Nganga's deep understanding of the spiritual realms allows them to navigate the complexities of the Kalunga line, ensuring that the spirits of the deceased are properly honored and that the living are able to receive guidance and protection. Whether through the activation of Nkisi or the invocation of spirits, the Nganga serves as a guide to help individuals understand their place in the cycle of life and death. Their work is not merely a form of spiritual healing, but a profound responsibility to maintain harmony between the two realms, ensuring that the forces of life, death, and rebirth remain in balance. In Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo, these practices continue to serve as powerful tools for spiritual guidance, healing, and protection. The use of spirit-activated objects, whether they are Nkisi in African traditions, mojo bags in Hoodoo, servitors in Vodou, or Nkisi vessels in Palo, serves as a testament to the enduring connection between the physical and spiritual worlds. These objects are not merely symbolic. They are seen as active agents that carry the power of the spirits, allowing practitioners to engage with the unseen forces that shape their lives. Through these practices, individuals are able to access wisdom from the ancestors, seek protection from negative energies, and manifest their desires, all while navigating the sacred boundary between life and death. In the end, the Kalunga line, Nkisi, and the Nganga remind us that life and death are not separate entities, but interconnected parts of a greater spiritual cycle. These traditions offer us a deeper understanding of the forces that shape our existence, inviting us to honor the spirits of our ancestors and the divine powers that guide us. As we reflect on the influence of African spirituality in Hoodoo, Vodou, and Palo, we are reminded that the sacred line between life and death is not merely a boundary, but a living, breathing space where transformation occurs, where the living and the dead coexist, and where the mysteries of the universe continue to unfold. Through the rituals, objects, and teachings passed down through generations, these traditions provide us with a roadmap for navigating the spiritual realms, ensuring that the wisdom of the ancestors continues to guide us on our own journeys through life and beyond.